least whoever isn't here has some of what we're doing. I'm going to go back to share screen. Okay. So yeah, synchronous is like real time, and asynchronous learning, which is like basically recorded or email communication where you can kind of look at it whenever you want. We will be having some Zoom meetings. There's not going to be a ton. Not going to be a ton of them. I think we're slotted for 3 or 4 throughout the semester. So not a ton, but we'll discuss the course outline in a second. Slides, assignment, and readings will be posted on my Canvas, and I'll be communicating with you regularly via email. My Canvas, so far, my experience with it, it's been like a disaster to communicate with, to be blunt. So I prefer just using email. I have all your emails and everything, so I think that's the best way for us to communicate. And we'll just communicate like that, whether it's assignments, the week ahead, next steps, all that stuff will be on email. So check your email and check my Canvas regularly. Okay. What this class is about. Again, we've discussed a little bit about this already with some of your awesome answers. Got even some flames for you there. An intense 14-week workshop that explores the many tools of investigative reporting and enables you to use them. Like I said before, applying theory and discussion to practice. So, we are going to be discussing journalism in the real world and seeing how you can apply it to the assignments that you'll be doing. Okay, deep dive into issues of your choosing. You'll see that with the investigative assignment. Okay, crucial stepping stone into your development as a journalist. And identifying what investigative journalism is and how you can be an investigative journalist. Okay, which again, we've touched on that already a little bit. Well-researched stories with multiple sources. Okay, not just 1 or 2. What this class isn't about. I always like including this just because process of elimination, right? If you see what it's not about, it'll give you an idea of what not to do in the class. So opinion or column writing. Okay, you're not writing columns in this class. Opinions are great. Love opinions. Even when we have our discussions, by all means express your opinion, and we'll always discuss it. It's not about creative writing, but you have to write creatively. Okay, you'll have to, and we'll talk about that in our coaching sessions and for your major assignment on how to develop your story and how to present it to your audience. It's not about you. Course isn't about you. Your friends, your buddies, your BFFs, none of that. Okay. It can start there, but your story or your stories can't be about them. Okay. It's not about bias, but please use common sense reporting. Okay. What do I mean by common sense reporting? Let's just give a quick example of that. Okay. If I say to you, or if I write in a story, let's just say I'm an entertainment reporter, and I say, Drake is the best musician in Canada. Trash, right? Get it out. Opinion, it's a column, it's not a column, you're a reporter, so
it's
we
not
can't.
based on anything either. Like there's no evidence to back it up.
Exactly, right? So I would get rid of that, right? That's something we don't want to see in stories. But what if I said, based on recent years, Drake is one of the more popular musicians in Canada. A little bit easier to take in, right? A little bit more common sense, right? I would be okay with a sentence like that. I wouldn't be okay with the first sentence. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about common sense reporting. Not everything that you write in this class has to be like research to death. Okay? There's some things that I'm okay with you saying as long as it's within the common sense, right? Donald Trump is the most hated public figure in history. Opinion, right? I know some of you are agreeing, but you can't use that, right? Donald Trump is a controversial figure. A little bit different, right? I'd be okay with that. I would agree with that, right? Most people, everybody would agree with that, right? Stories with only 1 or 2 sources. It's not about that. Your major assignment is going to have multiple sources, and we'll discuss that in a second. Okay. How we doing, everybody? We doing okay? Any questions? Okay, just holler out if you have any. What is investigative journalism anyway? And again, some of this stuff, apologies, but you all are smart and you've given some of these answers already. So, form of journalism in which reporters deeply investigate a single topic of interest. Okay, this could include crime, politics, transit, education, or sports. Investigative reporting goes well beyond covering events and press releases, although that is where it could begin. Okay, we've had reporters, or I've had students, write an investigative assignment or do a major investigative assignment in this class based on starting with a press release and then kind of digging deeper after that. Totally works. Above all else, investigative reporting is enterprise journalism at its finest. What do I mean by enterprise journalism? Can anybody tell me what I mean by that? You can just holler out if you want. It's not an easy one.
Well, I think that we kind of touched on like using the word enterprise this morning, and I think that it kind of refers to like solving a problem with like a different solution kind of thing. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. But
It's more, I mean, you're definitely going to have to do that with the assignment, so you're partially right there. But what I mean by enterprise journalism is like journalism like grassroots that starts from you, like looking into something and built itself from the ground up, right? You can replace enterprise with organic, and it can mean the same thing, right? Just something that comes from you and is based on your reporting and your own self-starting initiative. So that's what I mean by enterprise journalism. Okay. What tools, skills must you possess to be an investigative reporter? Okay, again, curiosity is the big one. Curiosity with a touch of criticism. Nothing wrong with being a little bit critical. Wondering why something isn't right or isn't working. Hey, I've had, and you'll hear these stories throughout the semester, but I've had, multiple cases where, I've had people tell me to buzz off and there's no story here and they've been right, to be quite honest. But it doesn't develop until you ask the questions that people don't want you to ask, but that, that you got to put out there. You have to be a self-starter, take your own initiative, go beyond the surface of a story. You have to be tenacious, okay? I would even go stubborn to a certain degree, a little bit, especially to attain information sometimes. And you have to identify trends, okay? One of the things that might help you for your investigative assignment is to identify a trend that's out there, right? And we'll talk about that in the weeks to come. What does an investigative story need? Don't forget these, okay? You have to answer a question or several questions. Okay, any investigative story should start with why is this or why does that, okay? Number 2 is a big one, people. If you look at the second point in this slide, which will all be available on my Canvas, I think it's available already actually on my Canvas, but number 2 is a big one, numbers and data. Your major assignment will have to have some sort of numbers and data attached to it, okay? Statistics, percentages, comparisons with numbers, you'll need that, okay? Analysis, gathering and evaluating the numbers along with documentation, and exclusivity. You're giving the public important information that they can't get anywhere else, okay? Not to say that you can't start it from a previous story, okay? Some of you may have stories that you're working on in other classes and you may want to build on that with your major assignment in this class. I'm totally fine with that, right? I'm not one of these profs that says, well, if you're working on it in that class, you can't do it in this class. No, I won't do that to you, okay? Story has to have impact. Okay, what do I mean by impact? It's not just one answer here, but what do I mean by impact? If anybody wants to shout out.
I think like that there's a takeaway for the reader. We always
Yeah.
talk about that. So just like that there's like what you're saying is important to someone. It's not just like empty information. There's a reason people need to know about it.
Yeah, yeah, good points. A takeaway is a good one. It might not even be like an actual practical takeaway. It might just be like someone saying, holy crap, like I didn't know that. That's something I'm gonna have to look into, right? So absolutely. Having impact, you can impact people in different ways, right? You can impact them emotionally, you can impact them practically, right? Like say you have a story on, the link closing for, a week, right? Like that's going to impact someone if they read it, right? They're gonna say, oh my God, I gotta find another way to get to work, right? So you can impact people in different ways, right? But the examples that you gave were good. It should be a subject of extreme importance to a large group of people, right? There are niche markets, obviously, for certain types of writing, but generally investigative journalism, it's a subject of extreme importance to a large group of people that want answers, right? Here's an example of one, the Patriots and why they suck so bad this year, right?
Don't do my man Bill like this.
Go
Don't.
Sorry.
Bills.
Hey, I'm a Bills fan, so this is nice to
Come
have happen every once in a
Yes.
while.
Come on.
Yeah, sorry. We'll see what
Wait,
happens.
you're a Bills fan?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they're
Oh.
in trouble on Saturday, but we'll see what
I'm a
happens.
Colts
No.
fan. You guys,
Oh, ouch.
That's even
Sorry.
worse. I'm leaving this conversation.
Give me a break. You had like the floor for what, 20 years already? Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
come on.
give it up a little bit, right? But anyway, I had to poke some fun at the Pats a little bit, but they'll be good again, I'm sure, and we'll see what happens with the Bills on Saturday. I think they're in deep trouble because don't get me started with their run defense, and you know who the quarterback is for the Ravens. So enough said.
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, who's he? So let's have a look at just, we're not going to go through all of these that I have here, but let's just go through some of them. Might even just do one of them and just go through kind of what investigative journalism kind of is. Oh man, I just did something bad there. Let's just see here. You all can see this share screen still, right? You see me moving it around a little bit here? Okay, good. So here's one I'm just going to show you that I did. This was back when I was in Mississauga, not too long ago, like what? Been about 2 years now, almost 2 years. This was something I did with, it's an investigative piece on a Mississauga neighborhood that used to be like the kind of the talk of the town. Everybody wanted to move there. And it just became this, basically this terrible place to be. And there was like, I think 7 shootings there within the span of like 3 months. And it was just terrible, right? So I kind of like just delved into it a little bit and, looked at why there, the violence was such an issue there and why it turned into what it turned into. And I basically started my story. And again, this is all in my canvas, right, people? So you can look at this kind of in depth later if you want. But I started my story with a neighbor that I ran into because I spent a couple hours in the community, kind of walking around and stuff. And I found somebody that basically happened to be back there that day, but he actually moved out of the neighborhood. It got so bad that he moved. Right. So like you get somebody like that for a story like this, it's like golden, right? Like initially when I started talking to him, I was already thinking, okay, like you're my lead, like you're 100% like the lead of my story because this is the nightmare scenario, right? It's somebody being able to not take it so much that they've actually left the community. So that was just something that I did in terms of an investigative piece. Obviously, it's a little bit more lengthy, as you can see, right? It's not your just typical like one-off kind of rewriting a news release. There's even a poll at the bottom of it. And I kind of went from there. So there's other examples, right? Like that are in this slide that I could show you. But like I said, there's tons of examples there that you can kind of look at. These ones here you could use when you're looking into your investigative assignment just as templates as to what I'll be looking for. And we'll discuss that a little bit more as we move on. Okay, so your turn to be the editor here. Again, I'll show you this one first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up. I'm going to give you an opportunity to just give it a look here. And again, I'll move down. Can everybody see that? Can everybody see kind of the first couple of paragraphs maybe and picture of the dog there? I'll let you look at that, like, and I'll move it down the page like slowly, but I'll let you, like, you don't have to read everything, but I'll give you a couple of minutes just to give it a read.
Okay, so Jenna warned me that this was coming and I still wasn't ready for it. She told me that you were gonna do this, and I was like, that probably won't happen, and it's happening anyways.
Yep. Yeah, it is. Oh, Jenna, that's funny. The next one's actually an interesting one, but we'll do this one. And again, you're not being marked on this, right? I just want to hear your opinions on this. I'll move a little bit further down here. And again, we don't have to read everything. I'm like ultra slow reading people, so like if I'm getting through it, that I'm assuming most of you are getting through it. We'll discuss it shortly. Give everybody another minute. I guess I don't have to read all of it. Okay. So based on this, I'm just going to go back. So basically, what you had there was you had a story about cops admitting to shooting and killing a dog when they raided a home. So that was a very quick story that I did. Kind of came in the morning, and kind of like that was sort of the story of the day. What are some, and I'll come back to everybody here, and we'll go back to share screen in a second. But what are some of these stories, investigative stories, potentially that could come out of a story like that?
You could see how many times something like that has actually happened, right? Like trying to say that wasn't just a one-time thing, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Um, that would be one avenue for sure. How many times does this happen? How many times the police go into a unit or a home and actually, A, shoot a dog or pet, and B, kill? Yes, Jessica.
Um, I'm just kind of thinking from the angle of like there are police dogs obviously get trained to work with the police, as far as like drugs go and things like that. So when it comes down to it, it's not like it's crazy to think that police never interact with dogs except in these situations. So maybe there's some sort of um like when we're looking at like Black Lives Matter and police brutality, maybe if there's some sort of like training that needs to happen when encountering whether it's animals or people to kind of just like de-escalate the situation that doesn't involve just being trigger happy and pulling a gun out to shoot the thing that's bothering you. So yeah, that's just
Yeah.
kind of my take.
Training, definitely police training, and what goes into police training. Maybe looking at, because in that case, that in that story was Peel Police, but looking at their training procedures and maybe doing comparisons to like other police forces like Toronto, York, Hamilton, and see how it compares to their training procedures when it comes to discharging a firearm or using a gun in those situations for sure. Anybody else? That's a good flavor. There's another one that we're going to do. Oh, I'm looking at one from MacFlat here. You could FOI request Peel Region's use of force reports and examine the 25 recorded shootings of that year, investigating the claims that they intentionally provoke animals with the intent of shooting them. Absolutely, you can do an FOI request for use of force, and that's another offshoot story that can come out of that. So yeah, good response with that one. I'm going to do a share screen again. And we're going to go back. I'll show you what came out of that. So that's basically what came out of it. Everybody can still see. Oh, not available, huh? But basically, it was a spec story that that I did that went into. Let me just see if I can find it here separately, because it might be available elsewhere. Just give me 1 second. See if I can find it like this. That was basically the story. It appeared on the spec too, but I guess this is more of a local story. Basically, I looked into how many times police have shot and killed animals. It started with dogs because that was my question, but because I did a Freedom of Information request on how many times it happened, I basically got all kinds of stuff: deers impaled on fences, opossums in distress, coyotes near death, dogs getting in the way of arrest. Here's that one for you: a stray cow. They actually shot and killed a cow once that was in the middle of the road. So again, these are just a few examples of the 133 animals Peel police have reported to have shot and killed since 2010, according to documents obtained through Freedom of Information. So that's just an example of what can be done on like a follow-up story or an investigative story. Okay. I'm going to show you another one that's coming up here. I'll start in a second. This is a video. Can you all kind of see it? It's kind of like this big black rectangle in the middle. Yes, for the most part. Okay. So I'll start in a second, but I'll give you a little bit of a background before I let you see this. So basically, this incident happened in Brampton a couple of years ago, where their woman was working in the Tim Hortons drive-through, and someone came in. Someone pulled up to the drive-through, and she wanted to use the washroom, and they were just closing. So the drive-through, the employee said, "Sorry, we're closed for the night, but there's a Tim Hortons like just a couple of kilometers down the street, and they're 24 hours. You can use that one if you want." I'll show you what ensued. This is the video. Now again, it was taken by I think it was the next person in line in the drive-through. This girl here, this woman here, she actually jumped through the drive-through window and grabbed that woman's hair, the employee's hair. Don't read lips, obviously. So you can see there, she's got a pretty good grip on her hair. This is all from not being able to use the washroom, by the way. You can see that we're just coming up towards the end. Kind of got a grip on her hair. She's now, it looks like she's willing to let go. And then she does, but not before she gets some shots in. Okay. Now again, pretty crazy video there of what happened. The employee was, I think, 4 months pregnant, by the way, that employee. So she ended up being okay. But what are some of the potential? So obviously the big story there was, the initial story of the day was caught on video, assault in, through Tim Hortons drive-through in Brampton. That's the story of the day. What's an investigative story that can come out of that potential investigative story? Yeah, Katrina.
What types of policies are in place to protect employees of those like places? Like,
Brilliant.
what do they have anything that like they're supposed to do in that situation, or like is there anything to actually prevent it from happening in the first place?
Brilliant. That's awesome. What are the policies in place? Yeah, like at Tim Hortons and such. Before we go on to other people, when we went there the next day, we noticed that they had bars on the drive-through window. They put bars up like immediately, like the next day, which obviously then begged the question, okay, well, what made you do that all of a sudden? Like, why wasn't this here before, right? Like did something have to happen for this to happen? So anybody else? I think, Kara, you had your hand up. Yeah.
I would ask, like, how often does this happen? Because it happens a lot. Like, this kind of stuff has happened to me before. Like, not that extreme, but like anyone that works in food service, you get treated like garbage. So, like, I feel like that could be like a bigger story.
Yeah, no, and like it maybe even do like a story about like, that Tim Hortons specifically and like kind of how employees have been treated in general at that Tim Hortons. And is this, I mean, I hope that that's not a regular occurrence, but is, being treated badly a regular occurrence at that Tim Hortons, right?
Sometimes it depends on the neighborhood that your store is in.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that's another option as well. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Jessica, looks like you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
I don't know if anyone said this, but like to see if the woman got charged or anything for
Yeah.
assaulting the woman.
Which she did. So yeah, that's another one for sure to look into. That's more of like a follow-up story, but not really an investigative story, unless you're going to do some stuff on her background and things like that, and kind of where she's from, and But I mean, those are kind of rare stories.
Serial service worker assaulter.
Yeah, or something, right? Find out that she's been convicted of that before. Let me just show you quick again. I'll do a share screen just so that you can see what we did here. Just give me a second.
Oh, I had an idea too.
Sure.
Sorry. I guess I would ask, like, does Tim Hortons, like the higher ups, like what do they do with those reports? And like,
yeah,
do they keep track of how many times their employees are assaulted?
Yeah, and what do they do about it, right? Like in this case, like it was almost like somebody went there, like the manager just said, okay, let's put bars up. And then we found out there were actually bars at other Tim Hortons drive-through locations, right? And it's like, well, like what, like, and you got to love Tim Hortons, right? Like they wouldn't admit that they put the bars up because of the incident, right? Like they just said, well, we decided it was a health and safety decision and we'll leave it at that, right?
Then you kind of gotta ask, like, okay, if that was a health and safety decision, like what triggered like that decision to be made, right?
Yeah, and which they wouldn't tell us, right? They give a generic health and safety kind of policy initiative thing, right? I mean, the thing you'll find, I'm sure, when you're looking into your investigative assignment and even just journalism in general, is people can lawyer up pretty quickly, and it seems like every question you ask right now by email has to go through like 8 layers before someone gives you a simple like yes or no to it. So there's good and bad to that, but we'll discuss that as the weeks come. But again, good responses. I'll show you what we did here. We kind of took a different approach with this one. I think you can't see my screen yet. One second. I'll do a share again. And again, we won't go through the whole follow-up story, but try again. Okay, we just basically did a story about escalating youth violence in Peel and what's being done basically about it. Very generic type of investigative piece to follow that up, but one that was warranted, and I think that this was like a good lead into it. So that's kind of what we did with that one. I think that is it for the slides. Just let me get out of this.
Just an idea, like to do with
Sure.
the Tim Hortons thing.
Yeah.
You could look at which measures have been taken and which Tim Hortons, right? Because I know where I lived before, if you know Scarborough, I lived at VP in Eglinton. The Tim Hortons there used to be 24 hours, and they shut that down. It's only open to like 10 or 11 now because of all the problems and homeless people and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you can see which neighborhoods this is affecting and what they did to solve it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can, that would be an awesome investigative follow-up, right? Yeah, no, that's like I'm trying to think of like even something to say to that, but that's perfect. The way you worded it was perfect. So that would be a really good follow-up as well. Because you can get all kinds of reaction, right? You can get reaction from the actual Tim Hortons, like corporate. You can get reaction from the people that work in the Tim Hortons, you know, if they're willing to talk. You can get reaction from people that live in the area, right? So there's all
Yeah.
kinds of options there. Awesome. Why don't we do this? What I'm going to do is let's take a 10-minute break. Okay. Let you all go out, make yourself a coffee, go have a smoke, whatever it is you do. And I'm going to mute myself and turn my video off, but I'm going to keep the Zoom on. But we'll take 10 minutes. Let's come back for, is everybody showing about 2:10 right now? 2:10-ish? Let's come back for 2:20, okay? And we will talk about the course outline as well as the investigative assignment, okay? And the assignment that you actually have to do later today, okay? So 10 minutes and we'll come back. Awesome.
He's gone, boys. Let's freestyle.
You guys, look at my cat. She's sleeping on my hand. She's making it really difficult to do anything today. Oh, yeah.
Oh my god. You're trying to leave. You're bad. Bad.
Honey pie.
Okay. I'm gonna lay down for 6 minutes. Bye, guys.
Hi, kitten. So pretty. What a nice kitten. What's your cat's name, Meg? Oh my gosh.
Her name's Roxy.
Hi, Roxy.
We found her abandoned like a long time ago, like 8 years ago.
Yeah, Khaleesi was abandoned as a kitten and my boyfriend found her. Now she's 10.
That's so cute. I heard we were showing cats, so I got mine.
I wish that I had a microphone that I could put close to her right now because she's purring so loud. Oh, hi. You giving me a kiss?
Too sweet. Wait, do you guys both have girl cats?
Yeah, she's a girl.
I have a boy cat.
What's your cat's name? I think you've told me
Freckles.
before. Freckles? I like that.
Because he's got little markings like on his lips.
Yeah.
It's really
What are you doing? I just got a brand new mouse pad and it's already covered in cat hair because my mouse pad goes right here.
Oh man,
So
I
I've
didn't realize there was a cat party going on.
put it away. Yeah. We're just making the most of our time.
Well, I can't even too. This is the fluff.
Wow, nice cat. Okay, what are you doing now? You're gonna fall off the desk. It's not my problem. Give the people what they want. Hey, if I pretend I have food, then you'll probably do it. Look, what's this?
Oh my god, my cat thinks anything plastic.
My
is good for
cat's
him.
just,
I
It's
had
just-
a cookie on
oh.
my desk earlier, and I don't know if you saw it. She kept like walking over this way, so I had to like pick her up and put her off the desk because I couldn't eat my cookie and I couldn't even like leave it on the desk. Come over here, show everybody your face.
Oh my god, it's so cute.
Oh.
Lacey, you're gonna be famous. You're so loud. There's nothing in there, it's garbage, but you'll probably eat it anyways. Anybody else's cat eat garbage? Just me.
My cat's really picky at what he eats.
My cat, I
Cereal.
think, out of spite, like eats plastic bags just to act dramatic. Like she'll have a bowl full of food and she's like, "I have no food." Ah, like walks around and finds any.
He doesn't like to eat if there's like a like spot in his bowl that you can see the actual bottom. It's not good enough. It needs to all be covered with food at all
Maybe that's
times.
your problem. Oh,
I don't know what that was that fell.
Hey, I got one of those scratching things too, actually, for the wall.
Yeah.
Hello.
so funny story. So my cat's actually kind of really annoying, and my dad hates her. But for Christmas, he bought her like 9 different things and put them all around the house.
that's like those videos where it's like dad said he never wanted pets, and then you see them build like a huge house in the backyard for the animal.
Yep. So he bought her that scratching thing on the wall, and she loves it.
Nice.
Loves it.
It's a freaking party now.
Also, Katrina, I just want to applaud you at we're how many months into this pandemic and you're still getting up, doing your hair, doing your makeup. I'm shocked. I literally wake up and be like, oh, yep, this is good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's how I like feel like I'm ready
Like-
for the day. It's
yeah, it's like a
if I was going
routine.
to school or work. Yeah. I think I'm gonna get a coffee.
I'm back. I will wait like another minute. I swear if I see that headline one more time when it comes to a cat or a dog story, a positive experience. Drives me nuts. Seen it too much. Okay. We back? We all good? Let's do another minute. I'm gonna give you another minute because I know some people are struggling to get back in time. And I'll access what I have to show you. So it's even better. Okay. 2:22 on my watch. We're all back. Everybody got their dose of the new measures that are in place and everything in Ontario. Yes. Stay at home order. Nobody go anywhere. I'll let you read those after. There's some interesting ones in there. But okay, we're back. Everybody can hear me? Yes. Can I just get some yeses? You can hear me? Yes. Okay. Awesome. So we're going to finish off the second half of this session. I'm going to show you the course outline, which is available in my Canvas, but we're going to go through it together on the screen. I'll show you the course outline, just to kind of give you a lay of the land of when to expect things to be due, the weight attached to certain assignments and such, so that you have an idea. Then I'm going to show you the assignment that you have due this evening. Okay, probably the only time you get homework in this course will be today, but it'll be due this evening. Not a ton to do. I wouldn't call it a heavy assignment. And then we'll see how we are for time, but we probably will talk about the investigative assignment, like the big one at the end of the year. And because I wanted to give you a bit of a head start on that now, just so you can see it. And then we'll do a quick exercise, a you be the editor exercise. It's a good one. Some real thinking involved. So all good? I can move on? Any questions? All right, awesome. So course outline. Share screen again. Let me make sure you can see it. You all can see that? Should say investigative reporting at the top. Yes? Me, course professor, all that stuff. Okay. Remote learning course, combination, synchronous, asynchronous, video instruction, case studies, story development workshops, online discussions, all that fun stuff. Okay. Now down to the nitty gritty. So week 1, which technically was last week, even though we didn't have a class, but technically, like, I think Mohawk puts that down as week 1. So no class, but I asked you to review everything on my canvas. Week 2, Zoom meeting. That's today, January 12th. Introduction, course outline, topics and approaches to tackling news and investigative stories. We're going to discuss the investigative story, and your investigative brainstorm assignment, which we'll talk about shortly, is due tonight before midnight, okay, by email. 15% of your final mark, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it's in my canvas for you to look at. Okay, basically, it's taking a. You'll look at it and you're going to look at it yourselves, but it's basically taking a news story from the last week and deciding how to make it into an investigative story, or what investigative stories can you put out of that. Basically what we just did verbally with the last 2 examples I showed you, but actually putting it down on paper. Okay. Next week, we're going to have another Zoom meeting. Okay. What's today? Tuesday? Next Tuesday. Again, 1 to 4. We're going to talk about freedom of information and how to put together a freedom of information request. Okay. Because that'll be your next assignment. Okay. Week 4, January 26th. Okay, your FOI request has to be mailed or emailed out and sent to me via email. So it's basically due that day, is what I'm saying. January 26th. No Zoom on that day, everybody. Okay, you'll see here actually there's no Zoom for a couple of weeks here. So basically those will be asynchronous learning weeks, where basically you'll start your week on Monday. You'll probably see a couple of emails from me and some stuff in my canvas, you know, to get all the academic wording out of the way. That's basically a simplified way of putting it, is that I'm going to have some slides for you, some discussion topics, and some emails, and that'll be it for those weeks. Okay. Same thing on week 5, February 2nd. We go down to February 6th. We'll have another Zoom meeting. Okay. On week 6, February 9th. We'll be talking about impact stories, application of social media, on investigative reporting, interviewing. Okay. Reading week. They still call it reading week, yeah? Reading week, February, yeah. So it's that's February 15th to the 19th. No class that week. Week 8, we come back. Okay, no Zoom again. Brainstorm of story ideas for your big major assignment. Okay, week 9, March 2nd, your proposal for your major investigative story is due. We'll talk about that in a second as well. Week 10, big data and computer assisted reporting using Excel, using databases, best practices for investigative reporting, barriers and opportunities. Week 11 and week 12, we go into what I'm going to call individual Zoom meetings. Okay, they're going to be coaching sessions. That's a big cat. We're going to go into coaching sessions on those 2 weeks. So basically, these are going to be opportunities, everybody, for you to work on your investigative assignment, but also for you to have probably 15 to 20 minute individual Zoom sessions with me. What I'm probably going to end up doing is creating one specific Zoom link, and then I'm going to email you times on when you can access me. I'm actually going to email you the times, and it's going to be up to you whether you want to take advantage of them. In a virtual class, in a real class, students have used these times to like sit me down for some questions and go over maybe even a rough draft of your investigative assignment, your major assignment, or if you're ever having trouble with a source, anything to do with that. That'll be for these 2 weeks, week 11 and week 12. Week 13, your investigative assignment is due. Okay, and week 14, April 6th. Okay, Juan and Kyle will know all about this week 14 in my classes. Final marks and consultation and discussion. Okay, so basically, if all goes well and we stick to the timetable, and the world doesn't turn like more upside down than it already is, this course for you all is effectively over on March the 30th. Okay, that'll be the last day where something is due. This will be an opportunity, week 14 here, for you to discuss your final marks with me, talk about anything moving forward, talk about the mark on your investigative assignment, anything like that. It has been used in the past by some students just to come in and sit down and chat, or in this world that we live in now, to have a Zoom meeting with me, or even to like just have a discussion about your marks. But effectively, this course will end on the 30th of March. Okay, that April 6th is just a buffer. It's just in case something goes awry, maybe an emergency happens with me or something where I can't make a class or something. That's why that's there. Okay. Evaluation and marking. Your investigative brainstorm assignment, 15%. That's due tonight. We'll talk about it shortly. Your freedom of information assignment, which is due 2 weeks from now, is 30%. That's a big one. Okay. Don't do anything with that one yet, people. My advice to you, don't do anything with that one yet until next week when we talk about it. Okay. Don't look at 30% and say, oh my God, that's a lot. Like, it is a lot. It's a big chunk of your mark, but it's not like, again, it's not what I would say is a crazy heavy assignment. Okay. Your proposal for your investigative assignment is worth 15%, and your major investigative assignment is 40%. Okay. For a total of 100. Okay. Stop share. Any questions based on anything that you saw in that outline? Again, not asking you to memorize the outline. It's just giving you an idea of what's due and kind of when it's due, so you can sort of plan your semester, so to speak. One, you had a hand there, but I don't know, was it a question or no? No, you're good? Okay. So no questions, I can move on? Okay. Let's look at the brainstorm assignment, which is due. Let me just pull it up here. Tonight, before midnight, and we'll do a share screen on that. Again, it's in my Canvas if you want to look at it, okay? But I will do a share screen here, and you can follow along. Okay. We can all see that investigative brainstorm assignment. Yes, I have to make sure. Yeah, we can see it. Okay. Your assignment involves picking a story on any of the major news publications from the past week, and in 250 to 300 words, explain to me how the story can be followed up with a longer, more in-depth investigative piece that would serve readers and viewers. This assignment is similar to the verbal exercise we did in class regarding the story about the police shooting and the one about the Tim Hortons assault, okay? And how those can turn into investigative stories. For this assignment, you'll want to answer, how can the investigative story delve into the bigger picture, quote unquote? What numbers and data can be used to justify and enhance the investigative story? Who will be interviewed for the piece? Okay, you'll need to give me a minimum of 4 sources. And how and why will the investigative story serve readers? Okay, that should, answering those 4 questions, everybody, should give you about 300 words. Okay, minimum 250. If you go over 300, I don't care. Okay, just like, God, don't give me like 1,000 words, please. Like, thank you. I'm hoping everybody's nodding and saying okay, because I can only see some of you. But yeah, don't worry about going over 300, but minimum 250. Okay. In addition to answering these questions, I'll be looking for proper spelling and grammar as part of the marking. And please include your name at the top of the assignment, along with a link to the story that you chose. So the story that you chose to pick to do a bigger investigative story on. Okay, make sure you send me a link. You can even put it in the Word document or however you're sending me the story. Okay, and email it to me before midnight tonight, 11:59 p.m. This evening. Okay, so you got some time to do it. And just send it to my email. Okay, and I'll have that marked 15% of your final mark, and I'll have that marked as soon as I can. Okay.
I have a question.
Questions arising out of this assignment?
Yeah. Can we do any story? Like
Matthew, you got to unmute
like, can
yourself.
it be an entertainment or?
Yeah, Matthew,
not
you got to
muted.
unmute yourself. It looked like you were going to ask a question.
It did. Hello, can you hear me?
No. Can everybody hear Matthew, or is it just me
I
that
can
can't
hear him.
Yeah, you can hear him.
I can hear him.
Oh, okay.
I can hear him.
So
Let me see.
I'm not crazy. Okay, good.
Can you hear?
It says I'm
Okay, I can hear you
unmuted.
now. I can hear you now. Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Can it be any type of story? Like, does it have to be like hard news, or can it be entertainment, or?
Yeah, it can be entertainment, sports. I would just say make sure it's part of like a major news publication. So
Okay,
like
thank you.
if you want to do like something off of like CTV's website, the Spec, Vice, anything like that, the Star, Globe. Does that answer your question? That's good. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? No, we're all good. Okay. Like I said, if any questions arise after, everybody, like just, feel free to like email me. Like if you're unclear about something, by all means, like flip me an email, and don't be afraid to ask any questions. Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to, I'd like to show you, this is not for, I mean, it's not due until the 30th, but I want to show you the investigative assignment, if that's cool. Just give me 1 second here. So we're going to do a share screen again. And I'm going to show you this assignment. Now, you'll see here that I put the weight of this assignment is 55%. That's only because I added the, excuse me, the investigative assignment itself, the story that you're going to write, 40%, and then 15% for the actual proposal. Okay. The proposal is due on March the 2nd via email. Your final product is due March 30th. Okay. Purpose of this assignment is to work through the stages of writing an investigative news story, developing and evaluating a story idea, planning, researching, writing, and of course the final copy. 700 to 800 words, minimum 700 words. Okay. Again, I don't care if you go over 800, just like, no novels. Okay. Consider why it will interest your readers or viewers. Assume either a Mohawk college or another hyper-local viewership. What do I mean by hyper-local? What am I talking about when I say hyper-local?
Like CNN, or no, sorry, not CNN, CHCH. My brain.
No, it's okay. My brain's always on CNN, so don't worry, Michaela. Yes, CHCH is a good example. Another example is, let's just say you are not from here, right? Like you're not from, I mean, I'm in Oakville, so I don't know what I'm talking about when I say here, but let's just say you're not from Hamilton. Okay, let's just say you live in Bradford or York region or Scarborough, as one of you said earlier. I used to live there. You might want to do your story on something that's impacting that community there. That's fine too. Okay, doesn't have to be like a Mohawk College or a Hamilton-based story. Okay, because I get it, especially with us all learning from home and learning remotely. I'm not going to ask you to delve into something that may be out of your reach or may be a task for you to get the information. So you can do it on something hyper local. Before I go on, I'm going to do a stop share for a second because I just want to get a view of the whole screen, all of you. Are most of us from Hamilton here, or where are we from? Like, where are some of the places we're from? Like, where are we learning from today? You can put it in the chat, or you can just like shout it out.
I'm from Niagara on the Lake.
Okay, Niagara on the Lake, interesting.
I'm in Burlington.
Oh, okay, Burlington's close to me. So
I'm
Burlington.
in Etobicoke.
I didn't know that, Kyle. Really?
Yeah, I'm closer to Toronto.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Okay, so we got all kinds: Hamilton, Waterdown, Caledonia, Etobicoke, Niagara. Okay, so we're from like all over the place here. So that's good to know. So your investigative piece, everybody, can be something based on your community that you're in. It doesn't have to be like Hamilton based. Okay, just so you know that. That's what I mean by hyper local, right? Having said that, if you want to do it on something that's related to Mohawk College or something to do in Hamilton, by all means, like go for it. Okay. I'm just going to share the screen again. Okay. Sorry, that's the wrong assignment. Let me get back to that other assignment here. There we go. So topic must be discussed and approved by me verbally or via email. Okay, so you can just flip me an email and say, hey, Louis, this is what I want to do my topic on. I want to explore this, this, and that. Is that cool? And I'll reply back with either a yes, a no, or like a yes with an asterisk. Okay. After I approve the topic, you have to submit a one-page summary, 250 to 300 words of your chosen topic, whom you specifically plan to interview. And I mean like specifics, like names, first and last, their positions and such. What angle you're taking or pursuing, and what are the two sides or more of the issue. This is your investigative proposal, and this is due by March 2nd by 4 p.m. So this is your 15%. Okay. Then your final product, all reporting is to be original and interview based, and you must include data and numbers. You must have a minimum of 3 sources in your story, interviewed in person, by phone, or email. Obviously in person, going to be very rare. Okay. Especially in this day and age that we're in, but that's due on March 30th at 4 p.m. Subjects you'll want to consider interviewing: experts in the field, people who have or will be impacted by your topic, politicians, critics of your topic. Okay. Your final product must have a diverse range of people quoted. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Let's just say you're doing an investigative story on the impact that COVID-19 has had on Mohawk College this year. Let's just say that's your investigative piece. I don't want 3 professors quoted in your story and that's it, right? Maybe professor, student, and a health expert, that would work. But not like all 3 of one. You get my drift? Everybody understand that? Okay. There'll be virtual time to work on this assignment, as we discussed when we were going through the course outline. And you'll get some coaching and feedback from me if you choose to take it. Okay. You have to include contact information for all your sources on a separate sheet. So when you hand in your final assignment, I want you to have a separate sheet. It could be part of your assignment, but like at the back, with full names, phone numbers, emails, and other pertinent info that I might want to look at, because I might want to, I might have some concerns and I might want to call up one of your sources to say like, okay, like, did this person talk to you? Why do I say that? This is back in my Sheridan days. For one particular class, I had a student who decided he was going to do a story on the Raptors, and basically took words that a certain player said and used it in a story. And my question was, did you talk to the person? They said yes, and they gave me their info, and it turned out that it wasn't true, right? So I may want to call people out if I have any concerns. I'm not expecting that to be a concern at all with any of you, okay? But it's good to have the information just in case, right? Just as a fact-checking exercise for myself, okay? Here's the marking scheme. Okay, your proposal, 15 marks, okay? Your final product, your lead is 5 marks. Your story structure is 10 marks. Your news value, content, and data is 15 marks. Okay, and spelling, grammar, CP style is 10 marks. Okay, so all totaled up 55 marks. If you want to split it up, your proposal 15% or 15 marks, and your final product 40. Okay. Again, the one thing you will need for this assignment is numbers and data. Okay, it's actually part of the marking scheme. So whatever you're going to use or whatever your topic is going to be, make sure it's something that is conducive to getting numbers, right? For example, if you are going to do an investigative story on how COVID-19 has impacted Mohawk, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of great quotes from people saying, oh my God, this year's been a disaster. Learning just isn't the same. You might get a prof that says, teaching's been a challenge. It's crazy having to sit, in Zoom with these students all the time. Great color for your story, but you have to think about what numbers you can use. What numbers are you going to be able to get to support that kind of investigative story? Okay. Yes, Katrina.
Would that include, like, let's say, like, using your story as an example, like if you were to interview a sample group size, let's say you did a poll on, like, let's say you had access to all these students and you wanted to do like a sample group of maybe like 30 people, could you use that as like a percentage
Yeah,
for it? You know what I mean? If percent of students like say online learning isn't conducive to their learning styles, like something like that.
yeah. Like if you just kind of wanted to put that out to people and then get a response back, like
That's
kind
like,
of.
yeah, like as a way of collecting data. Like, could you do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. The only thing I would say with that is you'd have to show me somewhere in the contact list of like, who you like got the data from. But yeah, that could work. That's kind of like creating your own data. But yeah, that would totally work.
That's what I think Taryn asked a question in the chat that kind of relates to that.
Okay, let me just have a look here. I guess this is one of the 12 messages I must have missed. 1 second. My investigative people want to be in one of the biggest towns. It's funny. Can data numbers be collected by reporters or articles found online? Yes. So the answer to those questions is yes, as long as it supports what you're writing about. But just like I answered Katrina, if you are doing it on your own, like I'm going to need names of people that you talk to. So if it's a group of 30, like it's literally going to have to be like those 30 people and like their contact information, just so that I know that this is the sample group that you used. Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Okay. I gave like a little bit of extra time on that one. Thanks for the questions. And like I said, if there's any further questions or follow-ups on that, and again, I don't mean to be hitting you with everything all at once, but one of the benefits of you learning this year, because like there's not a lot given the pandemic we're in, but one of the advantages is that you have an opportunity to kind of learn from previous, like what I would call mistakes in my class, right? Which is one of the complaints in years past has been, well, we got the investigative assignment too late. I would have liked more time on it, right? Which is why I wanted to show it to you in the first week. That way, at least, you're like the hamster can start running in the brain a little bit, and you can start actually thinking a little bit about what you want to work on for your investigative assignment. Okay. We are going to revisit the investigative assignment again, people. Don't worry. Like this is not going to be, I show it to you today, and then okay, by the way, it's due on the 30th. Like we're all constantly going to be revisiting it, given the weight of the assignment and how much percent is attached to it. We're obviously going to revisit it again, and I'll probably even show you the actual assignment outline again, just to remind you of when it's due and kind of what you need. So, yes, a hand there, Jessica.
I know that part-time teachers aren't required to have office hours, but do you have office hours?
I do not have office hours, but honestly, and I'm sure Juan and Kyle can attest to this, like you can email me anytime, and anytime you want to set up a Zoom meeting. Obviously, if I can't because I'm busy, I won't be able to. But if you were to email me later today and say, "Hey, Louis, I want to discuss some things with you. Can we have a Zoom meeting?" I'd be shocked if I didn't say, "Okay, this time tomorrow." So to answer your
Okay.
question, Jessica, like no, I don't have office hours, but like I'm always available, whether it's via Zoom or email, or even if you want to set up a phone call, I can do that too. Good? Answers your question?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Any follow-up to that from anybody? No, we're good? Yeah, I'm totally accessible, people. So, if you prefer it to be like an individual one-on-one Zoom meeting, or if it's something you prefer to do over the phone, we can do that too, or we can just go plain Jane via email back and forth. It's however you want to do it, but I'll always be accessible to you all, okay? Let's move on from there, and let me do, this is the final thing we're going to do. It's just going to be, I'm curious to get your opinions on this. This is something that I did with the group last year, so Kyle would have seen this already, I think. But basically, it's something that I do every year in this class, because I think it's a helpful kind of tool to kind of get the wheels rolling. It's a scenario that I'm going to give you. It's a real life scenario, happened to us a couple of years ago, and I want to give it to you just out of curiosity. So, you're an editor and you're working. It's late at night. You're putting the paper together, and you're updating the online content. And there's a shooting in the neighborhood in your community. So you send a photographer, you send a reporter to the scene, and they go there. They interview some cops, interview some neighbors and stuff. You find out the person's been shot. You find out the person gets taken to hospital, and you find out the person dies in hospital. So you have like a homicide, basically, and it's kind of a breaking story, and everything's kind of happening all at once. Your photographer comes back. He's got some, generic police tape pictures, right? Building with some police tape and stuff. And he's got some other generic shots. So you have the basis for like a news story. Your reporter comes back and tells you he's got some quotes from neighbors. He's actually got the name of the person that died. And he's verified it, and he's got that information as well. So he's got a story that he's put together that's got some information on it, and he or she tells you in relaying that information that the shooting was drug related. It was a drug related shooting. It was over drugs, and he got that from the police. So you're an editor, and you're thinking, okay, this is great. We covered this like a blanket. We got all the information that we need. You're putting it on your page. You've put a story up online already, saying breaking news, shooting in the neighborhood kind of thing. About an hour passes, and one of your freelancers decides they're going to call you, and they're going to send you a picture. Basically say, hey, I went to the scene. Thought you might be able to use this photo if you want it. So he sends you a photo, and I'm going to show you the photo that he sends. He or she sends. I'll share screen in a second. Everybody can see that? Person on the floor, long hair, yes? So what you have here is a photo of this here. Can everybody see that T cross-looking thing that I'm moving around, the cursor? This here is our homicide victim. Okay, he's basically on the floor, basically taking his last breaths. Okay, still alive. There's a friend, family member, somebody known to him that's looks like trying to help him. You know who he is because you've gotten that from your reporter. So the question is, do you run this photo? Do you run it? And if so, why? And if so, why not? So I'll give you about, actually, let me share the screen again. I'll give you about, I don't know, a couple of minutes, maybe. And I'll let you look it over. I'm just going to go fill my water and do a couple things, but I'll let you look it over, and I'll come back and I'll just get some of your responses. So again, do you run the photo online and in print? Okay. Probably our more focus is online, but there is a print product as well. Do you run it? Why or why not? Okay. Again, I'll give you a couple of minutes.
I knew we were about to see a dead body. I just felt it.
Just felt it. Does anybody have any thoughts or feelings?
My thought initially is, so the freelance guy has this photo. If you don't run it and he sells it to some other person running the story and they use it, then their story automatically is better than yours just based off the photo, right?
Yeah, when it comes to visuals.
Yeah. So
I think that if you're going to run it, you should at least blur out the victim.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because, like, with the podcast for law last semester, like, our group, like, Juan knows for Nightcrawler, it has no problem, like, getting up in these, like, really graphic, gory scenes and, like, shoving a camera in and taking pictures and taking video. So it's interesting because it kind of, like, depends on the publication, too, I think, like, if it was a small town thing, then you probably wouldn't want to put this on like the front page. But if it's like a big city, then it's like more
Yeah.
impactful.
I think you kind of have to put what you think about these pictures behind you, because at the end of the day, you're reporting on news. And if this is news and what people think, like
I
what
took a
your
picture
person,
of a guy who got hit by a car. He was riding his bike. He didn't get like hurt that bad. It was just an older guy who was like riding his bike across a crosswalk. And I had people like with so much flack because I posted a picture of him with like a neck brace sitting on the road. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's kind of like, that's why I feel like it's like publication kind of plays into it too, right?
Yeah. Do you guys remember last year we did like an exercise where like it was a woman that got hit by a bike and they were deciding whether or not the photo was too graphic. It was just her covered with a sheet, but they ended up deciding that like it depends on whether or not the photo is for public safety, kind of like if you see a picture of somebody who's
That
been
makes sense.
hit on a like by a car on a bike, like it has to have a person. You're not just like rubbernecking. It has to kind of, you know, because people will like want to see that just for kind of like the morbidity of it and like the morbid curiosity. But if it has a point, then you know you should, yeah.
Okay, I'm back and caught a bit of that conversation, so that was cool. Everybody can hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So let me, before I get to like actual verbal responses, I'm getting I'm gonna see a dead body. He's not dead yet technically, so it's not a dead body as of yet. Sorry to pull some technicalities on you, but absolutely. So this is from Mac. Absolutely not. It was mentioned earlier that we had a name as well, which we also can't publish until the official police report is published. Okay, so a couple of things on that. Thank you, Mac, for that. Number one, not true. We don't have to wait for police to verify, a deceased person's name. I mean, if we get it as journalists in our own way, or we obtain it and we're confident, like we're 100% sure that it's the person and that's his name and that's who he or she is, then we can run with that on our own. We're able to do that on our own, totally. Obviously, it's it would bring comfort, I think, to some reporters when it's actually in writing and someone actually like a police officer actually says this is the person that died, for sure. But I've done a ton of stories where police won't reveal the identity of the victim for a whole host of reasons, and we run with it. Their name appears on social media, or we think that there's a public service to running their name, all kinds of different reasons. But the answer from Mac, though, is absolutely not. So if Mac wants to answer through chat or verbally, I'm just going to ask why, Mac. Why wouldn't you run the photo? And in the meantime, I'd like to hear, unless Mac's going to do it, say it verbally, I'd like to hear from somebody else. If
yeah, so basically what I was saying prior to you getting back here was I think you do run it just because, unfortunately, the world we live in, everything's very competitive. So if you don't run it, someone else is going to. And unfortunately, we live in a world where pictures and shocking things get you clicks. And you kind of have to put out your moral standing, I feel like, when it comes to this stuff, because you have to just remember someone else is going to do it. You can sit here and say, this is, oh no, do you think about their family? Someone else is going to do it. Someone else who doesn't care. So it's up to you to say, hey, do I want to get those clicks? Do I want to get the traffic? Do I want to get paid for doing my job? Or is it worth it you really have to balance that in your head of what's worth it to you and what's not. Because like I said, someone else is going to do it.
Yeah, and good response. Before I get to Katrina, because she had her hand up there, Kyle makes some very good points. And I'm sure a lot of you, when you were listening to Kyle, were probably like rolling your eyes and saying, well, like that's not really a reason to do it. But any journalist, like I've been doing this a long time, everybody, and any journalist that tells you that it's not, the clicks mean nothing, and that's not why we're in this business. I mean, clicks lead to impressions and impressions lead to revenue. So any journalist that tells you that is full of it, to be quite honest. It does make a difference in our business, and it does matter what people are looking at. Now, having said that, we have to be able to sleep at night as journalists, right? And we have to be able to feel comfortable with what we're doing, right? So if we do what Kyle says and run the photo, we definitely, and I know Kyle has a more informed answer than this. He was just kind of given this answer because it's an honest answer. But we do have to have a better answer when someone says to us, why would you do that? It has to be better than, well, we want clicks, right? We need to have like an informed reason why we did it, right? There has to be a reason why we're doing it, if we're choosing to do it, okay? Katrina, and then I'll go to Kara.
Yeah, so I never like to think of something as like that clear cut, especially when it's such like a sensitive topic. Like, I wouldn't want to just abandon all ethics for the sake of revenue. And it's the same thing as when you're talking about like on a case by case basis is how you're going to take it. Like, you pick your battles and you also choose whether something's going to be worth it or not. And like, yeah, you can say, oh, well, someone else is going to do it, but are they going to also be suffering the same repercussions that you might if you do something without thinking, just because you're thinking this is a great photo, I'm going to use this and I'm going to have the best story about this. But I think it would just be as easy to maybe quickly reach out to family, because that's a really private, intimate moment, the last couple minutes of a person's life. And it's kind of a hard one. Everyone has different opinions on that.
And when you say, so before I go to Carol, when you say reach out to family, like, you mean reach out like to like let them know that you're doing it, or to like ask them to do it? Like, what do you mean, Katrina?
Maybe it's just maybe I haven't developed the thick enough skin yet, but yeah, I would really want to ask permission first, not only because it's like morally the right thing to do, but I'd be worried about getting in trouble about publishing something that's like, I'm not sure what and necessarily like the lines are for that, but we had a law and ethics class last term and learned a lot from that.
Yeah, and like let me like tell you, and again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but before I go to Kara, let me just say the issues here, everybody, with this photo. I'm just going to do a quick share screen again. The issues with this photo are ethical. There's no legal ramifications with running this photo. Zero, zip, zilch. Okay? Any controversy that's going to come from this is it's an ethical question, right? There's nothing legally wrong with running that photo. There's no, you know, if the person was under 18, obviously big trouble. Okay. But we know the person's not, because we've got that verified from the reporter. So it is just an ethical question. I appreciate your answer. I mean, no family member in their right mind would ever give permission, right? To run a photo, right? I mean, unless you can't speak for everybody, obviously, right? But I don't think anybody would argue with me in this class, like you know, the majority of parents you contact in a situation like that, particularly how early on it is, like this just happened that evening, they're never going to get permission, right? They're probably like, their head's probably still going to be in the cloud somewhere trying to process everything, right? So, and these are all things that you have to keep in mind, right? Because it is very early, right? I think that this would be a different conversation if this was, say, 2 days later, right? Maybe it's a different conversation, but let's go to Kara.
I think with like showing a picture like this, so like if you read a news article and the photo is just like a police car, like a taped off area or something, you're not really like, you're reading about it, but you're disconnected from what actually happened, and you're disconnected from the people that it happened to. So if you open a thing and you see the actual victim and like it's not graphic, like he's just kind of lying there, like, you know what's happening, but it's not like his like head is gone or something really horrible. It kind of like brings it home that this is a real person and this happened to them. And I think that especially like our culture is very like both desensitized and sensitive to like death and like stuff like this. So it's shocking, but it's not the worst thing you're gonna see, you know? And it's like, obviously if you know that person, then that's going to be horrible. But I think if you want to understand like, who did this happen to, it brings it home a lot better than just like a cop car. It's more personal.
Yeah, and good points, Kara. And on top of your point, what's missing in this photo, everybody? What's not in this photo? Kara kind of alluded to it. She was kind of dancing around it.
There's no blood visible.
Thank you. No blood, right? You know, because I can pretty much guarantee you this would be a very different conversation if there was blood in the photo, right? Well, maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe it would be. Maybe we'd be having the same conversation.
Or if his eyes were open or something, like he doesn't look like he's dead.
Yeah, and he wasn't at the time, right? We verified that he wasn't, because he died in hospital. So, but thank you. That's good. So you'd run it basically. And before, I'm going to go back to Katrina for a second. What was kind of your answer there, Katrina? Because I think we kind of got talking about something else. Would you run the picture or not?
It's hard to say. I guess I was trying to like explain more that like this isn't something that I think we could like all decide on like one definitive answer today. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I was trying to kind of figure that out myself when I was saying like pick your battles. I'm not sure for this particular one I would. I think I like what Michaela's saying, blurring out his face. I think personally I would have just a black bar over the eyes. For some reason it just like it invokes something kind of personal when you see that. So I wouldn't want friends or family to have to go through those emotions, just personally. And to see like how I would want my audience to reflect how I am as a journalist.
Yeah.
That's just the personal.
I want to go back to what Kara kind of said with
Kyle, and then we'll get to Jessica. But Kyle, go ahead, and then Jessica.
Just what Kara said about how obviously there's no blood, and it doesn't look like he's really dead and stuff like that. It's again that family that you're saying is gonna be upset over it. I'm going to bring it back to what I said prior. Someone else is going to post it, so they're going to get upset over it. It's going to be upsetting. Someone died. Like, it's going to be upsetting already. It's upsetting for them already. But I think, especially, where did you say this happened?
This was in Mississauga.
So that's a big thing. So when we think of Canada, we don't think about gun shooting and violence like this. Like, no one really does, compared to like the States. So when you highlight this, especially if if you show this and show the entire picture, this can have multiple other conversations. Gun violence in Canada. You look into it even further. Is it black on black violence? Again, you're branching off multiple different stories with this one photo. And I just feel like you can blur the face. Again, I'm not really seeing what that's going to do for the family. They're already going to be upset over the death, and the name's going to be out there. The police are going to name him. Like, they're going to do it. So I'm having a hard time understanding what the blurring or blacking of the eyes is going to do for the family when a day or two later, this is all going to come out. His name's going to come out. People are going to be able to look him up on social media if he was on social media. There's just a ton of other avenues that all we're doing is delaying the inevitable, in my opinion.
Nope, good point. Some good points there. Just a response from Katrina there, softening the blow, it's compassion. That's what she put on the chat. Yeah, and I get it. I get what each of you are saying, because there's strong arguments on both sides of it. Again, just before we get to Jessica, the blurring the face, to me, if I'm the editor making that decision, then the decision is not to use the photo. Like, to me, if you're deciding to blur the face, you're already going in one direction, that you have some issues with the photo. So what would be the purpose of blurring sort of the face? It's like, to me, like, that's almost like a journalist or a publication saying, look, we were there and we got this photo, but we're deciding not to show you everything. Like, I know that there's a place for blurred photos. Don't get me wrong. I know that, but I've never been a fan of them unless there's a real reason to blur someone's photo. And in this case, some of you are making the argument that there is, but I would say that this is one of those things that's either use it or don't use it, but blurred is an option. So I can't deny it. Jessica, you had your hand up, it feels like 20 minutes ago, but
just my comment kind of has to do with that, with the photo too. I was basically gonna say what you're saying with that, with the blurring and or if you black out the eyes, the thing with that is you have to kind of, as an editor, to make that decision about what kind of dialogue you're looking to like open up around the subject. And you know that if you're going to post such a provocative photograph, that it's going to probably start some conversations about the ethics behind that and the impact of the story on people's lives. So when you start to kind of take elements away from it, it isn't as effective, like you were saying. And it kind of brings you back to that choice of whether like or not to use it at all, kind of thing. Because before, when we were kind of chatting, like Kara and Katrina said too, about like the publication, depending on where you are working or where you're publishing news, that is a huge part of it too. Because like if you're working for like the Spec, or if you're working for like a community newspaper, or you're working for Ignite with the school, those are all different audiences, and they all elicit different types of dialogue around these subjects that they like publish about, right? So it's about finding like that right audience for that content too. That's a huge determining factor in this like back and forth with the ethics of it. And like Kyle said, having the story first and having the most effective visuals first, and it's really like publication dependent too.
Yeah, that, you know what, that's a good point, Jessica. It's like kind of know your audience kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like know the, like, you know, if it's a community paper, which I was working for at the time, you might have a very different approach than, say, if you're like the Globe and Mail or CTV or the Star or the Spec or one of these bigger publications that kind of has like a wider reach. And you know how community papers are, right? Everybody, I mean, everybody's got the stereotype, which is such a misnomer now, right? You know, that they're, oh, you know, they cover like the bake sales and the flower sales and, you know, like the cute little community stories, you know, grandma's turning 100, you know, the community paper will be there to cover it, which is so not the case anymore, right? I mean, it's not the case.
I could talk about that for hours, because I work for a community paper in my town, but we have like 2 community papers right now. And one is very much like fluff pieces about like I always make a joke that one of the leads I read in their story was 3 kids have 3 houses to color. And it was like literally a story about kids during the pandemic coloring sheets. Like, that's not news, you know what I mean? And then other paper in the town is the one that I work for, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but it's like actual news. So it's that publication, like with the fluff pieces, they're not going to go post a picture like that, like not in a million years.
Yeah, never. I know.
I mean? Yeah.
No, exactly. So I'm just going back to the chat here. So let me just, okay, so Jenny, and then I'll get to Katrina. So Jenny said, if you blur it out, you're admitting that you aren't fully confident in what you're putting out. But it depends, especially if this was more graphic. Excellent point, because you are kind of like, there's kind of an admission of anxiety, right? If you're blurring it out, right? The only times we've ever blurred out in my line of work, like when I've been working, is when it's been someone under 18 charged with an offense, and we've gotten pictures of them leaving court, and we had to blur them out because legally you can't identify them, right? So we literally like had them blurred out from like top to bottom. You know, and again, there's still conversation there to be had of like, why would you even run the photo if you're just going to show me like a blurred image, right? Fair points. Katrina, it's a delicate balance. I think my final answer is that I wouldn't run it unless it was part of a bigger, more comprehensive story for the appropriate publication. Yep, that's good. That's a hard answer, so that's good. Yeah, it is interesting, and this was real life. This happened. Everything I just told you happened. So are you curious to see what the decision is? Okay, show you here. I could give you like a link to the website, but like I haven't touched a newspaper in like so long. So let me see if you can see that there. So we ran it. As you can see there, front page. Obviously we got, let me just see here how much you can see. Kind of move it in a good direction. We ran it full-fledged. We got a ton, like I can't emphasize enough, like a ton of heat for running that photo. We had about 40 minutes to make the decision from when the paper, you know, went to bed, as we like to call it. I was the reporter, that was out there, and at the time. Um, and it was a tough decision, and we got a lot of heat for it. A lot of bad, nasty letters to the editor, basically saying kind of what Jessica sort of alluded to, which is, how could you do this to your community newspaper? Like, you don't cover things like this. And our reason was, and the reason that our publisher gave, because we actually had to actually write a letter after explaining why we did it and everything, was that if you remembered, I mentioned at the beginning that it was drug related. Drugs were a major problem in that community for the past year. And we just felt like we kind of wanted to hit people emotionally and kind of with a human impact kind of story and we felt that this was the best way to do it. This is a picture of a man breathing his dying breaths and basically like putting this community in panic based on a drug related shooting. And we felt that that was the best way to show it. Again, I know a lot of you wouldn't agree with that decision, but the point with this assignment was not to say, see, what we did was right, and anybody who decided not to run this photo was wrong. No, that's not the point at all. The point is, when you make these decisions, you have to have an informed reason for why you're doing what you're doing. So if you're doing it, like, you better have a good reason for doing it, because we needed to have one, and that still didn't work for a lot of people because they still felt that we went over the line. But that was our reason. Verbally, what I just gave you was, obviously more eloquently written in a column the following week, which is basically we did it because drugs were an issue, and we felt that it wasn't being addressed properly, and we felt that that type of visual kind of really hit home the problem that community was having. So,
to your point earlier, even if it wasn't drugs or whatever reason it was, these murders are happening. They're in the community. If you live there, like, instead of, turning away from it, like, you should be pissed off, right? Like, you should see this stuff and be pissed off as a community or as a city or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I agree with John, and I just feel like, especially if you watch the news and I feel like it's so easy to get desensitized. You know how with like a typical newscast, they'll run through your stories of, oh, this person died, and they'll just show you the visuals of the cops there and the lines, and it's so easy to get desensitized to it because you just hear, oh, that person got shot. Oh, okay, well, whatever. But when you see something impactful like this, it's the response that you obviously are meant to get is passionate response, aggressive response, because people are going to have things to say, which opens up dialogues. And I feel like any kind of story that you run as a journalist, that's literally the entire point of it, is to create a dialogue around your story. And that's what that picture did.
Yeah, and it totally did, Kyle. And it was the first of many stories dealing with that issue. And we did do a follow-up story later, talking to the victim's family, talking about, the type of person he was, and, a much more, I think, complete and whole story on his life, and the fact that he got into trouble, right? And that he got himself into some trouble as well. But we did follow it. Like, it wasn't just this one, and, we're going to bed, we're never touching the story again. We did continue to follow it, but we felt at the time it was tough. We had about 40 minutes to make the decision, and we weren't all in agreement. There were 4 of us in the newsroom at the time, and we weren't all in agreement. And but 3 of the 4 were that we should run the photo. So again, right decision, we'll never know, right? But we felt it was the right decision. At the end of the day, that's all you can say as a journalist, right? If you feel it's the right decision and you can sleep with your decision, that's awesome, right? I respect just as much all the decisions here to not run it, just as much as I do the decisions to run it, right? It's your call. As long as you have an informed reason for doing what you're doing, we're all good. Okay, so just think about that. That was awesome, guys. That was a really good conversation. Like, seriously, in all honesty, that was like really informed and good to get different opinions. Always good to hear different opinions. So that's all I got. We're coming up to 3:20. We will end it there unless anybody has any questions. Your investigative brainstorm assignment is due tonight via email before midnight. Any questions that arise, don't hesitate to email me. And failing that, look for emails. Keep an eye on my Canvas. And we will see you next week on Zoom. Okay, good to see your faces, everybody. Awesome. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.